Hello, this is Max, and I was recently censored from YouTube for speaking out about something. And in this video, I'm going to discuss the significance of that and what it means. So, first of all, hearing about Alex Jones getting censored didn't really mean much to me, because who knows if that's for real, like they really don't want him to speak, or exactly what's happening there. Um, and then I watched Quantum of Conscience, and he says he has to use a different platform to say what he thinks, and he uses code like he'll say 7-Eleven was a part-time job, and like I'm gonna be saying Maxine instead of Max, uh, as a reference to what people are deciding to take or not. Damn it. It's easier with the regular lighter. This is a baby one. But, ta-da. My fridge makes a noise. Okay. I got censored for talking about Maxine behind her back. Or whatever. Okay. Here's what I wanted to say. If I was talking about the spaghetti monster, and I came on my camera every night and I said, guys, the spaghetti monster's at it again, and he is up to nefarious schemes, and we really need to pay attention and figure it out and get him, and here's what it all means. If I was talking about the spaghetti monster, it I wouldn't be censored. It would be false, but it would be so false that it didn't matter. Even if I was dead serious. And I really believed in the spaghetti monster. There'd be no censorship of me. They wouldn't be able to. So they censored me because of medical misinformation, they said. And if I can figure out, if I feel like editing, I can show you some of the screenshots I took of what they said. But basically, I was accused of medical misinformation and contradicting what Maxine says about herself. So if I'm talking about the spaghetti monster is gonna kill me in the next year, if I say that, it's not censored. If I say the spaghetti monster is gonna kill you, it's not censored. But I'll get closer and closer to where it gets censored. If I said the spaghetti monster is contained in the Maxine, and if you take the Maxine, you will become a spaghetti monster. Now, if I say that, that's outrageous. And technically speaking, it's medical information because it contradicts what Maxine says about herself. The the people that produced her, the Crystal Geyser water company, coming out with a new water bottle that Maxine is on the bottle. So if I say it contains the spaghetti monster, technically speaking, that's medical information. However, so I'll say it. The coronavirus vaccine contains spaghetti monster DNA, and it will modify your DNA into spaghetti monster, and you will turn into spaghetti and meatballs, and try to turn everyone else into spaghetti and meatballs. If I said that, I just did. It's so false that I don't think it will be censored. But we're getting closer. And that's the pattern I'm trying to show you, is the more plausible my false assertion about Maxine is, the more likely it is to be censored. So it's not false things that are censored, it's true false things. And the second false is what they are considering false. The first true false, if I say false false or true false, or true true, but true true actually doesn't really exist, but the first true false, I'm referring to what makes sense to you, enough for me to be able to convince you of something, and them to have to put the nix on it. That would be true. Like, true enough to make sense. Coherent, valid arguments. Okay? So if I'm making coherent, valid arguments that are false, the second false, true false, is, according to Google, what Crystal Geyser says about their own water bottle is medical fact. And if I say anything to contradict it, it's misinformation. And that's a private corporation deciding what is true. I mean, they also said the band The Who and the Center for Dystopian Control. You can't contradict them either. And that I'll let slide for now, because they're supposed to be objective and accountable. But Crystal Geyser, the pharmaceutical company, why should I have to agree with what they say is in their vaccine? I just, it's so absurd to me. So, because obviously they're going to disagree with anything bad about it. So then I'm not allowed to criticize a private product released by a private company as an American citizen on the biggest platform in the world, YouTube, owned by Google, which is going to own everything. I mean, you're watching this on a Google web browser, maybe on a Google phone, eventually in a Google self-driving car, at your Google restaurant, ordering from your Google waitress, getting your Google burger with fries. So, double Google burger. Double plus good. Alright, so the spaghetti monster is in the vaccine, and if you take it, you'll become the spaghetti monster. Is that strike two, Google? Or do I have to make more sense for it to count? Like, so I would have to say something compelling. Do you see the problem? Like, the more compelling I am, the less I'm able to talk on YouTube without getting censored. I already inhibit my speech with everything I say because I know how people react to it. And I also have to I won't even say that, but I have to. I already there's like multiple layers to what I'm trying to say, and then adding another one on top of that, which is, oh, if I say that, I'll be censored. Now it's like I have to use certain words that haven't been weaponized. I have to anticipate people's responses and speak in that way, and I have to anticipate Google censoring me and speak of that. So there's just too much. It's like hard to talk. So So I'll post the link in the description, and you can see me making a coherent, valid argument about um about my friend's decision to go by the name Maxine when she originally didn't want to, and the reasons why she did it. See, it wasn't a video about what's in the Maxine. It it wasn't about that. It was about a human being's, a friend of mine's decision to do it. Just the decision making process. It was not a medical video, and I wasn't wearing a lab coat, or claiming to have an electron microscope, or claiming to have a degree. I have a degree in philosophy, so I should be allowed to talk about the decision a human being makes, the psychological decision. Like, I'm educated in that. Like, why am I not allowed to talk about that? If I say she was pressured by her parents to going by the name of Maxine, why am I not allowed to say that? Like, what did I say? I mean, you can watch it. I said it wasn't smart to do for her, my friend. Shouldn't I be allowed to say whether I think something is smart or not? How is that medical misinformation? If I say, I don't think it's smart, I didn't say because the spaghetti monster's in it. I didn't say that. I mean, the worst thing I said was in the beginning. I said, but I chose my words carefully. I said, I view it. I didn't say this is the truth. I said, I view it. She had a question that she couldn't answer within her own bubble of information. And I can answer it effortlessly and easily with my model of how things work. So I just shared how I view it, how I explain these unanswerable questions. I mean, people must be walking around just, oh my god, like in shock every day because their reality model doesn't fit what happens, whereas mine does. There's nothing you could ask me that I wouldn't be able to give you, even if I'm wrong. At least my model makes it so I know things enough to satisfy myself and make a coherent enough argument to be censored. Because as I've shown, as I've demonstrated in this video, an incoherent argument against the Maxine wouldn't be censored. And this censorship, it gives me confidence that I've said something true, and like, I'm very proud of it. And it also gives me confidence in quantum of conscience, having to monitor his speech. It's not just for show, like, oh, they'll take it down, no, he's for real. And I had a vote with my friends. I sent a group text out to my 4 best friends, and one of them agrees with me and the other 3 don't about most things, like conspiracy wise. And that reminds me, I want to talk about Christopher Langan to end this. Okay. But the vote with my friends, I texted them the video and I said, guys, watch this video before it gets taken down again because I re-uploaded it, and they were like, it's already taken down. So I eventually uploaded it to BitChute, and I said, guys, watch it and tell me if you think it earned censorship. And we had a vote, and even of my friends who disagree with me, it was 4-1 in favor that I was wrongly censored, and there was nothing I said in that video that deserves to be censored by Google and YouTube. So the people have spoken, as far as I'm concerned. And they're like, why are we voting? I think people underestimate their own power. Like, why not? So anyway, like if we decide that's not fair, we're powerful nodes. Like we can tell the people around us, hey, this isn't fair. And if that gets going, then they can't do this anymore. But okay, so Christopher Langan. I did a Google search today for who's the smartest. Someone was watching UFC and I caught a glance and I was like, I wonder if there's someone, like, I was thinking of myself in a UFC fight. And I was like, I wonder if I'd be able to outsmart someone. Like, even if obviously I would have to be strong and a good fighter, but are there any fighters who are just smarter and they know where to attack? Where maybe they're not as good of a fighter, but they know how to beat any particular opponent. I mean, it's nuanced, but it was bullshit. I googled it and they gave a list of fighters, but it was just talking about education. Like, oh, this guy has a master's in economics. I'm like, good for you. Like, you could still be a moron with a master's in economics. I was interested in how they apply it to fighting. Like, some guy being like, not that strong, but wins every time because he's just really, I don't know. But anyway, while I'm searching for that, it's like, did you mean who's the smartest man in the world? And I'm like, okay, fine. And I looked at that too, and Christopher Lane come up, and of course I've already learned about him, but I thought I'd revisit it. And I clicked on his Wikipedia. For some reason, he didn't have like a website that I could go to easily on Google. But I went to his Wikipedia, and at the bottom it said he supports 9/11 truth. And I was like, well, he better. I mean, if you're that fucking smart and you think that Osama bin Laden did that, then you're a fraud. He thinks George Bush did it to distract people from his own theoretical model of the universe, computational, theoretical. Let me see if I can remember it off the top of my head. Cognitive theoretical model of the universe. CTMU. The cognitive theoretic model of the universe. I think that's it. Anyway, it's about your mind influencing reality, which is what quantum consciousness says. So that's on the money. When you're really fucking smart, like really fucking smart, first of all, you have a big ego. Like, he thinks it was about him. He thinks his theory. Well, he's the smartest man in the world. He comes up with a theory of everything called CTMU, and then 9/11 happens, and he sees that it's bullshit, and he thinks that they're trying to distract the public from his theory, because his ego is big. And why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be? And maybe he's right. I don't know. I'm not that smart, but probably it's just a big ego, and the two events didn't have a lot to do with each other. It wasn't like they scrambled to plan 9/11 when he released his theory, because that took a long time to plan, in my opinion. So I read it. I read as far as I could today of his theory. I got the PDF and I was reading it. And I was planning on making a video and like going over it and trying to explain it in layman's terms. But basically it was cool. He was saying reality is a set of all sets. And the interesting thing, if you forget about reality for a second, mathematically, philosophically, computer sciencely, if you think about the set of all sets, you have books, like the set of all books. But the set of all books is not a book. So there's no logical problem there. It's just all the books are contained in the set of all books. And that's the set of all books. And if we're talking about the set of all sets, you have the set of all books, and then you also have the set of all cars. And the set of all cars is a set. It's not a car, so again, no problem. You put them all in. But the set of all sets is a set. So if you have the set of all books, the set of all cars, the set of all people, they're all in the set of all sets. And really, interestingly enough, this was my Google interview question. It was about the set of sets. And it confused me. But I eventually figured it out, but not during the interview. But the set of all sets, the problem with saying that is the set itself of all sets is a set. Therefore, it can only be the set of all sets if it contains itself in there. Along with the set of books and the set of cars, you have to have the set of all sets in there in order for the set to satisfy being the set of all sets. So there has to be this interaction between it, the set of all sets, and being like self-containment, it's called, to Ling. So that's what he's reconciling. And he's saying reality is everything that's real. And he talks about whether it's a tautology, or he uses the word autology. And a tautology, I think, it's in philosophy. I think it's when, like, if you say all red things are red, are you really saying anything at all? My philosophy professor would say that's a tautology. That doesn't mean anything. It's invalid. It's not a good argument. Because you're just saying all red things are red, but it's in it of itself. So you're not actually saying anything. Like all true things are true. It's a tautology. It's nothing's getting done. It's not a logical premise I could like build off of. But he's saying he's saying what is reality? It's everything that's real. And he's trying to escape the tautology by saying that it's self-contained. Like the set of all sets, it's really hard to put this into words, but the set of all sets, the ultimate set of all sets is reality itself. And reality contains reality. And I think of it almost as a conversation. He uses the words like, fuck, I wish I had that. I wish I had it, but he like invents some words, but a lot of the words really spoke to me and made sense. And he talks about information and reality and like space and time, and he basically evolves set theory to account for these self-contained sets. Where you yourself, the set, are inside of yourself, the set of all sets. So reality is in the set of everything that's real. Anyway, it's the reason it's interesting to me is because 10 years ago when I read that theory, I was like, oh, that's cool, but I don't really get it. Whereas now I've been thinking about it, not about it, but on my own. And I came to quantum of conscious and I was like, he's a step beyond me and he taught me things, which is that it's not real. Like what's happening couldn't it's not possible. Therefore, reality is not what you think. And so there's a there's something going on where I'm playing an active role in reality. It's not something out there that takes place without my um God, I wish I could. I'll just look it up. The way he words it is better. One sec. Got to work text. Okay. Jesus. All right. So I'm going to pull up his. I'm going to see if I can find his PDF. And I'll go over it. Okay, so if you Google, how do I full screen this? If you Google, I was right about CTMU. If you Google, Christopher Langan CTMU PDF, it comes up. Introduction to the CTMU. The real universe has always been theoretically treated as an object, and specifically as the composite type of object known as a set. But an object or set exists in space and time, and reality does not. Interesting. Okay. Because the real universe, by definition, contains all that is real, there is no external reality, or space, or time, in which it can exist or have been created. We can talk about lesser regions of the real universe in such a light, but not about the real universe as a whole. Nor, for identical reasons, can we think of the universe as the sum of its parts, for these parts exist solely within a space-time manifold identified with the whole and cannot explain the manifold itself. This rules out pluralistic explanations of reality, forcing us to seek an explanation at once monic, because non-pluralistic, and holistic. And he uses holistic. Because the basic conditions for existence are embodied in the manifold, which equals the whole. Obviously, the first step towards such an explanation is to bring monism and holism into coincidence. When theorizing about an all-inclusive reality, the first and most important principle is containment, which simply tells us what we should and should not be considering. Containment principles, already well known in cosmology, generally take the form of tautologies, e.g., the physical universe contains all and only that which is physical. The predicate physical, like all predicates, here corresponds to a structured set, the physical universe. Because the universe has structure and contains objects, it is a structured set. But this usage of tautology is somewhat loose, for it technically amounts to a predicate logical equivalent of propositional tautology called autology, meaning self-description. Specifically, the predicate physical is being defined on topological topological containment in the physical universe, which is tacitly defined on and descriptively contained in the predicate physical. So that the self-definition of physical is a two-step operation involving both topological and descriptive containment. While this principle, which we might regard as a statement of physicalism, is often confused with materialism on the grounds that physical equals material. The material may in fact be only a part of what makes up the physical. Similarly, the physical may only be a part of what makes up the real. Because the content of reality is a matter of science as opposed to mere semantics, this issue can be resolved only by rational and empirical evidence, not by assumption alone. I'm just going to keep reading until I have something to say about it. Can a containment principle for the real universe be formulated by analogy with that just given for the physical universe? Let's try it. This is where it gets interesting. The real universe contains all and only that which is real. Again, we have a tautology, or more accurately, an autology, which defines the real on inclusion in the real universe, which is itself defined on the predicate real. This reflects semantic duality. What does? Okay. Defines the real on inclusion in the real universe, which is itself defined on the predicate real. This is a semantic duality, a logical equation of predication and inclusion whereby perceiving or semantically predicating an attribute of an object amounts to perceiving or predicating the object's topological inclusion in the set or space dualistically corresponding to the predicate. According to semantic duality, the predication of the attribute real on the real universe from within the real universe makes reality a self-defining predicate, which is analogous to a self-including set. See, okay, so I know it's wordy, but that's the interesting part, is what he's saying is it's analogous. The self-including set that I explained, the set of all sets, therefore has to be contained within itself for it to be truly the set of all sets. And he says reality is analogous to that, which I find fascinating. Self-defining predicate, which is analogous to a self-including set. An all-inclusive set, which is by definition self-inclusive as well, is called the set of all sets. Because it is all descriptive as well as self-descriptive, the reality predicate corresponds to the set of all sets. And because the self-description of reality involves both descriptive and topological containment, it is a two-stage hybrid of universal autology and the set of all sets. I'm just reading ahead a little bit. Right, okay, now I remember, because I already read this. Okay. I have to just let him explain it because it's too hard for me to dumb down. I'm too dumb to help him explain it. Like he worded it perfectly. Okay, so and I'll stop soon at the edge of my understanding, but I'm gonna keep going for now. He says, now for a brief word on sets. Mathematicians view set theory as fundamental. Anything can be considered an object, even a space or a process. And wherever there are objects, there is a set to contain them. This something may be a relation, a space, or an algebraic system. But it is also a set. Its relational, spatial, or algebraic structure simply makes it a structured set. So mathematicians view sets broadly, including null, singleton, finite, and infinite sets, as fundamental objects basic to meaningful descriptions of reality. It follows that reality itself should be a set. In fact, the largest set of all. But every set, even the largest one, has a power set which contains it. And that which contains it must be larger. And then he puts in parentheses a contradiction. The obvious solution. Define an extension of set theory incorporating two senses of containment which work together in such a way that the largest set can be defined as containing. Okay, the obvious solution. Define an extension of set theory incorporating two senses of containment which work together in such a way that the largest set can be defined as containing its power set in one sense, while being contained by its power set in the other. Thus, it topologically includes itself in the act of descriptively including itself in the act of topologically including itself, and so on, in the course of which it obviously becomes more than just a set. And then he makes his contribution to the problem, and he says, in the cognitive theoretic model of the universe, or CTMU, the set of all sets and the real universe to which it corresponds take the name SCSPL. This is where it gets fascinating. Okay, SCSPL. Of the required extension of set theory, SCSPL, which stands for self-configuring, self-processing language, is just a totally intrinsic, i.e. completely self-contained language that is comprehensively and coherently self-distributively self-descriptive and can thus be model. I wish we had studied this in school instead of bullshit. Okay, so SCSPL stands for self-configuring, self-processing language. He says it's a totally intrinsic, completely self-contained language that is comprehensively and coherently, self-distributively, self-descriptive, and can thus be model theoretically identified as its own universe or referent domain. Theory and object go by the same name because unlike conventional ZF or NBG set theory, I don't know what those are, SCSPL hologically, with the H, not a W-H, hologically infuses sets and their elements with the distributed syntactic metalogical component of the theoretical framework containing and governing them, namely SCSPL syntax itself, replacing ordinary set theoretic objects with SCSPL syntactic operators. The CTMU is so named because the SCSPL universe, and that stands for self-configuring, self-processing language universe, like the set of all sets, distributively embodies the logical syntax of its own descriptive mathematical language. It is thus not only self-descriptive in nature, where logic denotes the rules of cognition, reasoning, inference, it is self-cognitive as well. The terms SCSPL and holology are explained further below. To skip immediately to them, click on the above links. That's about as far as I made it. Wow. But okay, wow. Okay, I'm able to summarize because I understand this part. Basically, okay, he goes on to talk about how the set of reality is containing itself, and then it has a power set, and then it keeps on. He talks about is it growing? Now, to me, that sounds like the universe expanding in order to contain itself. You know, like maybe he calls the set dynamic, and maybe it's in order to prevent itself from being a contradiction, it has to keep growing because it has to put itself in itself, and then its power set has to say, well, I belong in the set of all sets, and then the set of all sets gets bigger, but it always is a part of something else which has to be self-contained in it, and that's why it grows. He says that's not what's happening, but it's an interesting thing to consider. Um, then he goes on to, this is my favorite part, and I didn't know this, I just read it just now, but I did think about it myself, and I'll explain my understanding of it. He says every object in spacetime includes the entirety of spacetime as a state transition syntax according to which its next state is created. Okay. He's saying everything is contained in the smallest thing. In my opinion, that's what he's saying. And I know that I think I can prove that true with the thought experiment. Okay? So a directional microphone. Let's say you can't hear anything, but there's two people talking far away, out of your hearing range. But you have a tool, a directional microphone, and you aim it at their conversation, and now you can hear them. God, I have to go to the bathroom now. Shouldn't have drank this. Okay. That means that conversation is happening to you. Like the sound waves are hitting you. You can't hear it, but when you use a better tool, suddenly you can. But it was there the whole time. So, what if you're at a single point in the universe, but you have the strongest directional microphone ever? Can you pick up everything? And maybe not, right? Because maybe the sound wave doesn't make it to you. Perceptible or not, it's just not, it doesn't even make it to you. So the microphone can't pick it up. But in my opinion, if you have a good enough instrument in any point in the universe, you can know everything there is to know based on just that point. And so I'll try to give an example. Okay. You can gather information. This lighter tells me facts about the entire universe. This lighter is an object. And I know for a fact that in the entire universe, there does not exist this object killer. There's nothing on Pluto right now that has the power and the will to destroy this lighter in my hand while I talk. Because if it did, this lighter wouldn't be here. So just by looking at this lighter, I know there's not an alien on Pluto or God trying to kill this with the power and will. Like, he wants to kill it and he can. That guy doesn't exist. Just from this. And that goes everywhere. That goes every single planet in the history of time. Forward or backward. No one has the power and will to kill this lighter. And I think that's a great deal of information just by looking at one thing. So when he says the entirety of space is contained in one point of space, I think that with good enough instruments and thought experiments and things like that, you can figure out everything there is to know from a limited vantage point. I mean, maybe not, but you can learn certain things. And you can. It's almost like he's talking about a simulation at times, and it's like you can learn the game state from one point and kind of predict where everything else is off that. Kind of reminds me of quantum entanglement. Um, where that piece of space and time is like tied. It's tangled with another point. And if you do something over here, it does something over here. Faster than the speed of light. Because that one point of space and time and energy knows it has an object effector somewhere else. Not an object killer, but an object mover. You know, like, I know that this is not quantumly entangled with something that is moving in a certain way based on it not doing it. Anyway, I don't think it's a coincidence that the smartest man I've found on YouTube still doing videos, because Adam Pants is off, is Quantum of Conscience, and he thinks that reality is fake. Somehow it's like it's not real, and the smartest man in the world with the highest IQ also has a model of reality where it's cognitive and it's self-descriptive and self-contained, and it's not an objective thing that you live in. It's not an external thing that exists by itself. It's like it's theoretical. I don't know. Anyway, Google censored me, and it's because I make sense about Maxine and her dumb name and Crystal Geyser and their water bottle. So in conclusion, we'll see if this gets censored. The spaghetti monster is in the vaccine, and if you take it, you will become the spaghetti monster. Peace.